Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today at our first time home buyer seminar here at the Church of Jesus Christ in Passaic, New Jersey. We are very excited, the Little Dream Team, along with Francisco Estevez from Loan Depot. We also have Juanita Dreyer from Chicago Title, and we have Aziz from Keen Eye Inspection. And of course, we have some of our team members here from the Little Dream Team. We are super excited and ready to talk to you about the home buying process and cannot wait to get this information over to you. So today, to kick it off, we're going to invite the ladies from the Little Dream Team Realty. We have Ebony Burgos and Ivana Timmers. They're going to come up and they're going to assist with talking about the home buying process at this time. All right, awesome. So if you can just put up the home buyer slide, please. All right, so step one in the home buying process, and welcome to our amazing guests. Thank you for coming today. All right, so step one in the home buying process, not that one, perfect. All right, so you need to assess your finances. Before beginning your search for a home, it's essential to evaluate your financial situation. You need to determine your budget and calculate how much you can afford for a down payment. And understand your credit score and your financial stability. Of course, we'll get into these different categories one by one, but we just want to give you an overall preliminary view.
All right. So step two is the pre-approval mortgage. This would be pre-approved by a lender. This process involves submitting your financial documents for for reviewing, and it will give you a clear idea of the loan amount you qualify for.
Step three is going to be hire your real estate agent. My name is Ivana Timmers, your qualified real estate agent, and I can help you through the home buying process. I will help you find suitable properties and negotiate on the behalf and handle the paperwork.
Awesome. Step four is we start our house hunting. So when you start your house hunting, you begin searching for homes that meet your criteria and budget. Attend open houses, schedule private viewings, and consider the location, amenities, and future needs of that property.
All right, next would be step five, making an offer. This form will be used after the home inspection if there is any counter offer to the seller, asking that items consider defects or problems relating to the safety of the home are corrected prior to closing.
All right, and step six is going to be negotiation and acceptance. Be prepared for potential counter offers from the seller. Negotiate until both parties agree on the terms and the purchase agreement. Officially entering into the contract.
Step seven, and we have our home inspector here, but home inspections, you're going to conduct a thorough home inspection with a qualified inspector to identify any potential issues or repairs needed. Depending on the findings, you can negotiate with the seller or proceed with the purchase.
The lender will the lender will order an appraisal to ensure the property's value aligns with the loan amount. I apologize. I stutter sometimes. How do you
Simultaneously.
simultaneously? Simultaneously, you'll simultaneously. I'm sorry. Can you see?
Simultaneously.
Simultaneously, you'll finalize the mortgage details with your lender.
Step 9, title search and insurance. A title company will perform a title search and verify the property's legal ownership and history. Purchase title insurance to protect yourself for any future disputes.
All right. Title is here. Step 10, closing preparation. That's the day that we're most excited for, right? You do all of this to get to closing. So you prepare for the closing day by reviewing all the documents, including the CD or the closing disclosure, the loan estimate, and other paperwork.
Moving in and enjoy. Congratulations. You are now a homeowner. Start moving into your new property and enjoy the exciting phase of your life.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies. All right, so we those are the different steps. Now we're gonna go into it in detail on how to do those steps in order to become a first-time home buyer or to buy an additional property. You don't have to just do it one time. You can continue doing it. So now I'm gonna invite our beloved lender, Francisco Estevez. He's going to come from Loan Depot and he's going to let us know the process of getting pre-approved and everything that you need. If you have any questions, there's a mic in the middle and you can feel free to ask. Thank you.
Gracias. Hello, everyone. As Anna Kay mentioned, my name is this loud enough? You can hear me? Yeah. As Anna Kay mentioned, my name is Francisco Estevez. I am a manager with Loan Depot. My PowerPoint is a little long, so we're gonna try to speed through it. If you have any questions, please feel free. I wanna make it as engaging as possible. So we can go to the first slide. So our goal in real estate when we talk to consumers is to make sure that they're fully informed and understand what they're getting into. A lot of the things that I see on my end as a lender and a lot of the obstacles that buyers share with me are some of the following that are on the screen. They don't have any money, right? So how do we overcome that task? How do we look at different options to make you feel comfortable enough with the money that you have and the options available in the state to get you the money that you need or at least part of it? We go to the next one. I can't afford my dream home. Well, many times clients come to me and they're like, well, owning a house is more expensive than buying, right? And that's true, but let's look at the type of house, right? Instead of buying a one family, maybe you could buy a two, and that two is gonna generate some rental income so that you're paying less than what you're paying in a rental, or even live for free in some cases, right? Next one. You should wait until the real estate market gets better, right? Well, that's always gonna happen. And trying to time real estate is almost like trying to time the stock market, right? In the sense that you have to buy when you are ready to buy, right? When you can afford the property. Is it true that you should buy low in order to appreciate and sell and get the most profit? Absolutely. But I think the right time for somebody to buy is when they're truly ready, when they've made the decision that they're ready and they can afford the obligation that they're obtaining, right? Next slide. So the 8 steps to home ownership, and I'm gonna speed through this a little bit only because we do have an inspector and we do have a title agent, so we wanna give them their grace and allow them to share their expertise. But the first step is deciding to buy, right? Making that phone call, talking to a real estate agent who's gonna introduce you to somebody like me to then assemble your team and secure financing, right? And when we say secure financing, you can't go to a realtor and say, there's an open house this week and I wanna go just look at this house. But you need to understand your pockets first, right? Because why are you looking at $1 million house when we can only approve you for 400,000? Now you're setting yourself up for a world of upsets and disappointments, right? Because you saw this $700,000 house that's beautiful and it has the huge backyard and an in-ground pool, and then you figure out that the monthly payment is almost $8,000 and you're like, well, what am I gonna do now, right? So we wanna avoid those things, and the way that we avoid them is by educating ourselves up front, understanding what we can and cannot afford, and what we need to do to get there, right? Next slide, please. Okay, so deciding to buy, next one. Assemble the team, we went over that one. And what an agent does for you, right? So you speak to somebody like Anna Kay, and what Anna Kay is gonna do is ask you what your needs and wants are. And she's gonna condense a list and then say, all right, well, you need 3 bedrooms because you have X amount of children, or maybe you need a mother-daughter setup in the house because you have in-laws that are gonna come stay over, and you don't necessarily want them in your personal space, right? She's shaking her head, right? But these are realities, right? So speaking to an agent and educating you in the market, right? We can't, as real estate professionals, we can't tell you what neighborhood is bad or good. We can't discuss, the school systems or anything like that. But we can educate you about the neighborhoods and tell you where you're best suited to live, right? So we'll go to the next one. And we go into what I do, I am the beautiful bearer of bad news sometimes, right? So when we talk about finances and we discuss your debts and your income and your credit, sometimes what you want is not what you need right now, right? And that's just with everything in life, right? So maybe you wanted that one family and you wanted the privacy, but you're better suited that your first property is going to be a multifamily. And we can talk about the single family later on, right? The dream home later on. Go ahead. Mhm. It is, but you have to also keep in mind that you have rental income that's going to offset that, right? Because when you have a multifamily, but many times most homes are not delivered fully vacant, right? So you'll have a tenant in place already. Hmm.
And if you
Yep.
don't have a tenant, we have a team that will help you to get a tenant prior to you
Correct.
moving in. And tell when your first mortgage payment is. Is it as soon as you close?
No, so if you close on a mortgage towards the end of a month, your first mortgage payment, and I'll give you an example, right? You close at the end of November, your first mortgage payment won't be until the 1st of January, but you have until the 15th of that month to make a payment where it's not considered late. Yeah. Now, if you close at the beginning of a month, right? Let's say from the 1st to the 8th of November, your first mortgage payment will still be at the 1st of January, so you technically have 2 months in between, right? Now, a lot of people will say, well, that's a better strategy. Let me close at the beginning of the month. That's true, but your closing costs are a little higher, right? Because you have to pay interest. Correct, because if you close during the middle of the month, your first payment is going to be a month later. But if you close at the beginning of the month, your first payment is 2 months later. You can if you negotiate that with the seller up front, right? Because you can tell the seller if you make an offer on a property and it gets accepted, you can tell them, all right, well, we're going in contract first week of December. I want to close, February the 1st, February the 2nd, whatever it is. So you can certainly negotiate that. Hmm. Um, no, no. So that's a great question. So a seller cannot contribute towards your down payment monies, right? A seller can contribute towards your closing costs, right? They can give you a credit to help you with the closing cost aspect of a transaction, but they cannot give you money or contribute to your down payment. Okay. Next slide. Next one after that. All right. So getting the pre-approval, right? And the pre-approval is when, might sound cliche, is you getting truly naked on paper with a mortgage person like myself, right? And that's pulling the Band-Aid off and being as vulnerable as you possibly can be with somebody and honest about everything that goes in your account, everything that comes out of your account, what your credit patterns have been for the last 2 years. Have you been paying your bills on time? If you haven't, why not? Because we need to write letters of explanation and explain that to the people that are going to approve the loan, right? So, and we'll go into the next step about what that means. Okay, so documents that you may need, this is standard, but everybody's situation is going to be a little different, right? So standard documents that I'm going to want to see are last 2 years of W-2s, 1 month of pay stubs. If you're self-employed or you have any self-employment income like Uber, Lyft, Amazon Flex, and all those little things, we're going to need 2 years of tax returns, 2 months of bank statements. If you're using or leveraging any retirement accounts like 401ks, I'm going to want to see 2 months of statements of that, and then a copy of your photo ID. All right? Yes?
What happens if,
Mm-hmm.
what happens if your employer pays you like via Zelle or Cash App? Is that a thing? Can you still buy a house?
You can still buy a house, but my next question to that scenario would be, are you getting a W-2 or are you getting 1099? Because if you're getting a Zelle or a Cash App, that means that you're not paying taxes up front. So that immediately tells me that's a self-employed person, so we need to look at your tax returns a little closer. It depends on what you're doing with your accountant, right? So that would be a scenario where I would tell you, I need you to bring me not only the 1099s, but the last 2 years of tax returns. Because if you have a creative accountant that's putting expenses and writing down the income, that helps when you file taxes because you'll get a bigger return. Yeah. So in that scenario, if they're just putting the true expenses of the business, then my guess would be that what they're reporting as net income at the end of it should be enough to get you approved. Obviously, I would have to review it, but sometimes accountants will put extra expenses on there, like clothes and stuff like that. And what that does is that if, let's just say hypothetically, your 1099 amongst the two jobs was 120,000, but your accountant put that you spent $70,000 on expenses, right? Just what that truly means is that in order for you to generate 120, you have to spend 70, so your income is really 50. That's how the bank views it, right? So one of the big disparities between people who are self-employed or 1099 in comparison to somebody who's on the books or on payroll is that when you're on the books or on payroll, we look at your gross income. When you're a self-employed 1099 person, we look at the net. So after the taxes, after all the expenses, what was left over in the net income section of that tax return, that's what we're looking at. Correct. 2 years of the 2020, in this case, 2024, 2023, if you're looking to buy before filing your 2025 taxes. Okay. So when we talk about a pre-approval, as a lender, we review many, many things, but there's the core three, right? These are the three most important parts of a pre-approval. The first is going to be your income, right? And why is the income important? The income is important because that truly determines what you can qualify or the amount of mortgage payment that you can sustain on a monthly basis. What I look for is stability in income. Are you getting bonuses over time? Is your income irregular? Are you working odd hours every week? Like, are you working 40 hours one week, but then 20 the next, right? Because I can't give you credit for a full 40-hour week if you're doing 20 this week, 30 the next, because the numbers are all over the place, right? So we look at that. The next part of a pre-approval that's important is your credit. The credit score and history tell us two things. Well, three, really. The first thing that it tells us is what programs you can and cannot qualify for, right? Because every loan program has a minimum credit score requirement. So it'll let me know what program you qualify for. The second thing it'll tell me is what debts you currently have in your credit profile, right? Do you have child support? Do you have alimony? Are you making a $1,000 car payment every month? You know, are you paying for somebody's rent and it's not on your credit report, but I see it coming out of your account every month on a recurring basis? Are you using apps like Afterpay and Klarna and stuff like that? And do you have balances on there? Because those are accounts that I've seen, they don't populate on your credit report, but they're in your bank statement. And those are debts, so I have to count them against you. Do you have timeshares, right? All of those things I'm gonna take a look at. Because if you have a balance on there, on Klarna, when you look at your statement, it'll say recurring payment, X amount of dollars. So because that word recurring is on there, and it, and it comes out every month, we have to count it. So that's the second thing that credit tells me. And the third, depending on the loan program, when you do go under contract on a house, it's gonna let me know what rate I can offer you. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, the lower your credit score, the higher the interest rate. That's just what it is. So a lot of times clients will call me like, hey, but I'm seeing, what was that? I'm sorry? The lower your credit score, the higher the rate, right? So it depends on the program. So if you're doing an FHA mortgage, your minimum credit score has to be 580. If you have less than 580, let's say a 550, then you have to put a higher down payment in order to get approved. If you're doing a conventional mortgage, traditionally, the minimum credit score was 620, but that was recently changed. It became effective on the 16th of November. You no longer need a credit score to qualify for a conventional mortgage, but interest rates are going to be high, and mortgage insurance, right? Does everybody know what mortgage insurance is? No? So when you buy a house and you put less than 20% down, you have to pay additional insurance coverage to the lender for taking the risk to give you the loan, right? On a conventional mortgage, that mortgage insurance is heavily, heavily based on your credit score. So the lower the credit score, the higher the mortgage insurance. So does it make sense to do a conventional mortgage with a very low credit score? I would almost advise a client, let's work on your credit a little bit and let's do an FHA, or let's see if we can get your credit to a point where conventional, the rates and the costs aren't as abusive, right? Because what we don't want to do in the real estate transaction is put you and your family in a situation where your lifestyle completely changes. If you're a family that goes out to dinner or you like to take vacations, we never want to make you house poor, right? Where you're debating whether buying bread and milk versus paying the mortgage payment, right? So we want to make sure that we look at that. A lot of times clients will come to me like, hey, I was approved for $1 million at such and such bank. And I'm like, okay, but do you want $1 million mortgage, right? Well, what is $1 million mortgage? And then when you give them the numbers, like, I'm not ready for that, right? So we want to make sure that we educate you to the point that you're truly, truly understanding and comfortable with the obligation that you're putting yourself in, right? And then lastly, your assets, right? And the assets, that's, for a lot of people, it's a scary word, but really what that means is, where's the money coming from, right? The down payment, the closing costs, where is it coming from? Give you an example, 2-family house, $700,000. Let's say here, Passaic, right? You're gonna need, between down payment and closing costs, around $35,000, right? So that same look, I wanna know as a lender, where is it coming from? Do we have, go ahead.
Okay, what about the program at the city hall?
So we'll get to that, right? So I'll say, well, what do you have in your checking savings now? Do you have a retirement account that you can leverage? Are we looking to apply for down payment assistance programs and grants? And do you qualify, right? Because the programs are available, but not everybody is eligible for it, right? And we're actually gonna go into that on the next slide, I think. Let's see, it's the next one. Well, this is just letting you know what's a part of your mortgage payment, right? So in your mortgage payment, you're gonna pay the principal and interest, the money that you borrowed at the rate that you agreed upon for the length of time. You're gonna pay the taxes on the property. You're gonna pay the insurance, 2 types of insurance. Your homeowner's insurance that protects you if, a tree fell in your house or somebody slipped and fell, it's gonna protect you in the home. And also the mortgage insurance, which when you're a first-time home buyer, if you're not putting 20% down, you have to pay to make sure that the lender can give you the loan,
Give you
right?
the loan.
Next slide. So we went over that one, so we can skip that one. So credit score, this is just a matrix to give you an idea of what are the different things that affect your credit score. So your payment history, the types of trade lines that you have, right? So when I say types of trade lines, is everything a credit card? Do you have student loans, installment loans, a car loan? So basically looking at the difference or the diversity in the credit that you have, the length of time that you have credit. So a lot of people think, right, hey, when I was 17, I opened up a credit card at Macy's. I never use it. I'm gonna close it, right? Don't do it, right? Because that's the oldest trade line that you have. And what you do when you close it is you erase all that history from your credit score. So when you start going on the journey of owning a house, everything that you do with your credit, I hope that whoever you're working with, you're vulnerable enough to be able to share these things, and any decision that you're gonna make, whether it's a job change, opening a new credit card, closing one, co-signing for anybody, that you share that with the lender, because that one small decision like that could make you get disqualified or not approved for a mortgage, right? We'll go to the next one. These are, yep.
Yeah, sorry. So when I went to go buy my second home, I thought paying off my student loans was like an amazing idea. And my credit score at the time was like, I think a 660. And I was like, all right, there's a big debt. Like there's 60,000 left. If I pay it off, I've had this for like 8 years. If I pay it off, then my score is gonna go over 700. I'll get a better rate. It dropped my score to a 615, and I was livid. Like I was like, what in the world?
Yeah.
I paid off all this debt, thinking that it's gonna push it up, but because it was my longest credit thing on credit, then it actually dropped my score, and that was disappointing.
Yeah, and a lot of that can also be because student loan is installment debt, right? So if what you had left over on your credit was credit cards, well, now you're not very diverse in your credit profile. Now all you have is revolving trade lines, and you don't have any installment trade lines. So I would say if the credit score isn't in a bad position, don't make any changes, right? Just make sure that you continue making your payments on time. And if you're going to make any changes, have the lender do what's called a credit simulation. And if you do a credit simulation in like Anna Kay's situation, she would have told me like, hey, I'm gonna eliminate all the student loans. Well, I can run a simulation and put that she's gonna go ahead and do that and see how that affects the credit score, if it's gonna be a positive or a negative, before you make any decision like that.
My lender told me to do it.
Um,
It wasn't for
it wasn't me, it wasn't me.
my lender.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else can answer. I'm not sure if it's appropriate for now. So I am a homeowner already, a little bit older, of course. So we're thinking perhaps about getting selling our home and buying. Would you recommend at my age, which is 59, to buy a home in my name or put it in one of my children?
That depends on why you're asking the question. And the reason why I say that is a lot of clients will ask me that question because they're thinking about health. They're thinking about what benefits they can get in the future. What I would say in that instance is you can certainly do it under, a child's name. There's a lot that goes into that, right? Is the child married, right? Do they have children? If something happens to you, who inherits the property? Do you have that in writing, right? Like it opens up a different can of worms, right? But I would say you can also explore buying the home under an LLC, right? And buying a home under an LLC is buying it under an entity. So you legally are not the owner of that property, the entity is, right?
Like
So
a
it sort of
trust.
safeguards you
It's
a
like
little bit.
trust, like a trust?
A trust is a little bit more expensive, I think, and I may be wrong. You would have to talk to a real estate attorney. I think it's a little bit more now. I've heard even up to like 10,000.
No, that's different from the LLC.
Yeah, because
though.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So with the LLC, you'll be the authorized signer on it, but the legal owner of the property is going to be the LLC, so it protects you a little bit, right? And you can obviously put your children on there as authorized signers on the LLC as well, as beneficiaries. But that's sort of a way to protect yourself in that scenario.
All right. Could you do that with your present home as well?
It depends. So if you have a mortgage against the house,
We do, yeah.
you would have to see if the current investor on that loan would allow it, right? So the traditional primary residence investors like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, or FHA, Ginnie Mae, they typically don't allow homes to be held in LLCs, right? So you may have to refinance into a loan structure that does. There's pros and cons to that, right? Refinances are not free, so it's gonna cost a little bit of money. You may not have to pay it directly. You may be able to include it if you have enough equity.
But then you pay the interest
Yeah.
rate. That's
Interest rates are a little higher, right? So your payment may go up a little bit.
Yeah, right.
But it's almost like you have to choose a poison, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so you
Yes.
sort of have to.
I mean,
yeah.
I appreciate
But
that.
but if you want to have that conversation, we can sort of create a table and compare side by side to see what makes sense.
All right, we can talk
Okay.
about that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, I'm going back to before she asked the question. You said something about credit score. So basically, from what I got from you, you're saying that I shouldn't do anything to my credit until I speak to someone to see what is best to pay off that would affect me.
Correct. The first thing would have a conversation with a lender that can do a soft credit check, right? You don't want to do a hard credit pull because a hard credit pull goes on your credit and it can reduce your credit score. So you could do a soft credit check just to see what's on there, and if you need to do anything, you might not need to do anything at all, right? And we could do a credit simulation, see if you do have to make any changes, because sometimes you may think that you have a balance, let's say, of $2,000 on a credit card, and that paying it off completely, your score is going to go up higher than what it is. And that's true, but sometimes paying it and leaving a $100 balance on that credit card will get your score higher than paying it off completely, right? So doing a credit simulation is probably the best advice that I would give you. If, let's say, the score is in the 400s, right, and a credit simulation won't help, then the next step would be possibly talking to a credit repair agency. I don't work with any directly because I've heard horror stories, right, where you work with a credit repair person and they charge you money and then nothing changes, right? So I never want to be on the initiating end of that, right? I don't want to send you somewhere and then you're mad at me like, hey, Francisco, you signed. But I would say speak to a lender that can do a soft credit check, analyze the credit, and see if there's anything that you need to do. If it's a situation where like your credit score is 640 and you're gonna get it up to 660. If we're doing an FHA mortgage, there's not gonna be a difference in rate, right, or payment, so it doesn't make sense to do anything to it. As long as you continue making the payments on time and keep the balances at a normal level, you should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Hello.
My question is about DTI. So when it comes to student loan, debt to income ratio, former mortgage employee. So I have student loans, but they're all in different banks. So when it comes to doing, because each bank is different. So when it comes to applying for a loan for a second home, would that count as
Part of your DTI?
yes?
The student loans, even though they're on deferment?
Yeah, because there's no, it'll come up on the credit report as nothing's owed, but the balance
Yeah.
would.
So with student loans, every loan program is different. Every lender is the same, right? Every bank is going to treat student loans the same, but every investor is different. So if you're doing an FHA mortgage, for instance, and let's use conventional then, right? Freddie Mac, right? Because you have two investors on conventional loans. I know I'm speaking mortgage jargon, but I'm just trying to paint a picture. You have two investors on conventional loans and they treat student loans differently. Let's, just for number's sake, we're doing a Freddie Mac conventional loan. You're looking to buy your second house. When I run your credit, I see all the student loans and they're populating zero because they're on deferment, right? So we have two options. You either go on an IBR, which is an income-based repayment plan, right? So you would have to call these student loans up and tell them, hey, I want to start making payments on my student loans. This is how much I make, and they're going to assign a payment based on your
I was
income,
on that
right?
program before I went back
Yeah.
to school.
Now, I would look at it and say, well, the way Freddie Mac calculates the student loans is they count 0.5% of whatever the outstanding balance is as a payment, even if it's on deferment. So if you owe $20,000, I'm going to allocate a $100 a month payment to that $20,000, right? Because it's 0.5% of the outstanding balance. Now, if your IBR, your income-based repayment plan, is going to be higher than that number, then I would tell you leave it on deferment, right? And we'll just use the formula. But if that number is higher than the IBR, I would tell you get on the payment plan, show me proof that you're on the payment plan, and I'll use the lower number to help you qualify for more.
Okay, so, because I'm currently on my second master's, and I'm not going to be finished no time soon. So between now and then, if I decide to get a pre-approved or mortgage or whatever, would that count? Because I can't do a income-based
Base?
repayment plan if I'm on deferment because I'm in school.
Well, yeah, you would have to take it out of deferment if you're going to go on the IBR.
They don't. That's the thing. They don't do it as long as you're in school. After six months after being in school, after being out, then
Oh, you're back in school. I'm sorry.
currently
Okay.
in. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, there's no way to avoid it. We are going to have to use one of the formulas, depending on the program. There's no loan program that would just allow the student loans to be at zero, right? So they're going to use a formula to calculate a payment and hit you for it. Okay. Yep. So on the screen, we have different types of loan structures. So the traditional, your 30-year fixed, now they've come out with a possible 50-year mortgage. We don't know if that's good or bad, right? But we can do the math on that later. So traditionally, we have a 30-year fixed mortgage, which is the most common one in the marketplace. The second category, we have 5, 7, or 10-year ARM. I don't think as a first-time home buyer, unless your situation is very specific, that you should venture into that world. What that means is adjustable rate mortgage. So that 5, 7, and 10, what it says is your interest rate is going to be the same for 5 years, for 7 years, or for 10 years. You choose, and then it changes depending on the market. So that's how we got into a little bit of trouble back in 2006, right? But for a lot of people, this may work, right? So if you have somebody that's recently college graduate, they want to buy a condo, for instance, and they know that they're only going to be there for a year or two, why pay a higher rate? Just choose a adjustable rate mortgage, and then you're going to sell the property anyway in 2 years, so before the interest rate changes, you're out of there. But keeping in mind that life always changes, right? We don't know what curveballs life throws at us, and you can plan for one thing and end up somewhere completely different, right? The next loan structure is FHA, which is your first time or Federal Housing Administration loan, first time home buyers, what we know it as. You have jumbo. Jumbo is any time that your loan amount exceeds, right now I believe is at $963,300. I may be off a little bit on that number, but if the loan amount is over that amount, it's a jumbo loan. And then lastly, you have renovation products, right? So we do renovation loans as well. Renovation loans, you find a house that's in egregious condition, walk down the block, you see that possibly needs to be demoed or some updating. You can get a loan to acquire the property, fix the property, and be able to buy it as a first-time home buyer, putting a minimal down payment, right? So we'll go to the next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about renovation loans. We'll go to the next one after this. So with a renovation loan, let's say you find a house at $200,000, right? It needs a lot of work. It needs $100,000 of repairs. The way that we look at it from a lending perspective is we'll say, all right, well, your total acquisition costs are $300,000, right? Your down payment is going to be based on that total number, right? So your down payment would be 3.5% as a first-time home buyer. So $300,000, down payment would be $10,500, plus your closing costs will give you the money to buy and repair. You do not get the money to repair the house by yourself, right? Like, I'm not gonna go ahead and do the closing and give you $100,000 at closing for you to make any decision you want. You have to find a licensed contractor in the state that you're buying in, and we're gonna pay that person on a payment schedule based on the progress of work, right? So that's how that works. Downside, if you're a first-time home buyer looking for down payment assistance and grants, unfortunately, you cannot pair these programs up with down payment assistance programs, right? You'll be fully responsible for your down payment and your closing costs. You can negotiate credits with the seller for closing costs, but you cannot get any assistance from the state for this type of program, okay? Next slide, sorry. So when we were talking about money earlier and the money that you need, one of the questions that you asked was about the state programs or the agencies. The most popular agency right now that's giving money to first-time homebuyers is the New Jersey Housing and Mortgage Finance Agency. Everybody knows is that NJHMFA. The NJHMFA, you have to be a first-time homebuyer. By the state of New Jersey's requirements or definition, a first-time homebuyer is anybody who has not owned a house in the last 3 years. That means you did not inherit a house. That means that your parents didn't put you on deed or title. That means that you didn't buy and sell within the last 3 years. That's a first-time home buyer. And what they're doing is they're giving first-time home buyers $10,000 or $15,000 towards down payment and closing costs. What determines if you get the 10 or the 15 is the county in which you're buying. I have the counties listed on here. It's kind of small, but in a nutshell, if we look at the state of New Jersey on a map, if you're looking, was that, I'm sorry? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can, if you provide your emails, I can send the slides and the flyers.
Do you have where the money, the first time buyer program in?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, for East Orange, they have the first time buyer program at City Hall.
So that depends, right? So this is what happens with first-time homebuyer programs. A lot of it is either through an agency or a nonprofit organization, right? And those agencies and nonprofit organizations usually have a list of the lenders that are approved to offer the product. I can't go to every county or a city and offer their program if I'm not on their approved list. So when a buyer comes to me and tells me that they want to purchase, let's say, in Patterson, I can look at the approved programs that I have within the product catalog of my company and then determine if I can offer the specific program. This one is a little bit statewide, well, not a little bit, all statewide, and it's not restricted to a specific city or town. It doesn't matter where you're buying in the state of New Jersey. If you're a first-time home buyer and you fall under the qualifications, you would be eligible for this program.
Yeah, because I know that East Orange is Essex County.
Mm-hmm.
And the first time buyer program here in Patterson is Passaic County. So that's how it moves on.
How much are they offering?
Okay, the first time buyer in East Orange is 25,000.
Okay.
The other one is the same.
Okay. So it's
pretty much
East 25?
50,000 you're getting. From the FHA, it's 25, and the other one is 25, so it's 50,000.
It depends. It depends on the agency. You can't combine NJHMFA with any other. because they take a lien position on the title. So they don't normally allow anything in third position. But if you send me those, I'll take a look at them to see the specifics of it, like, you know, the duration of time that you would have to be there and the qualifications.
Ms. White told me that it's from the time you do the program to the time you have 1 year from that day. Say, for instance, you do the last program in November. You have until November 26th to get into a house.
So I used to do something similar when I was at a different institution. It used to be called City Lift. I don't know if it's the same. I would have to get the details of that program to know specifically what it is. But all of those different programs, they have a specific duration of time that you have to remain in the property. Sometimes they have deed restrictions, and what that means is when you sell, there's some restrictions to being able to sell.
Yeah, the FHA.
Yeah,
It's
so we-
like that. If you sell the house within 5 years, you have to give them back the 25 grand.
Okay. So this one is a little similar, NJHMFA. So NJHMFA, if you're buying in counties in South New Jersey, right, you get $10,000. If you're buying in Central to North, with the exception of Sussex County, you get 15. Now, if you're a first-generation buyer, right, and a first-generation buyer is somebody who hasn't owned a house in the last 3 years, right, so we established that part, but your parents are not current homeowners, or you've been a part of the foster care system in the state of New Jersey, this agency will give you an additional $7,000 on top of the 10 or the 15, and that's how you get to a total of 17 or 22 with this program. This one is not, NJHMFA. This one is not geographically driven other than determining how much money you get. It's available in every street, every city. A lot of programs are what they call a UTA, which is an urban target area program, which means that you have to buy in a specific street in a specific city in order to be eligible for the program. So they want to, a lot of the programs are for urban communities, right? This one is not like that. It doesn't matter if you're it doesn't matter if you're in Bergen County, in Passaic, Essex, it doesn't matter, Camden, it doesn't matter, you'll still be eligible for the money. There's 3 programs under the NJHMFA umbrella. It is eligible for 1 to 4 families and condos, no co-ops. We can do mobile homes. Mobile homes are a little tricky because the price on them can be to the point where a bank won't give you a mortgage for it. Like if you're looking at a $50,000 mobile home, unfortunately, you know, I wouldn't be able to do the loan because my company has a minimum loan amount that they, with us is 125. We do go a little under depending on the property type and the area because of, you know, the standard of living in certain locations, but normally we don't go under 100,000 on loan amount. And we can go to the next slide. So eligible borrowers have to be a first-time home buyer. This program does have a minimum credit score requirement. The minimum credit score requirement for this program is 620. And believe it or not, you know, I've helped many clients with Anna Kay where we have people that fall under that number. We'll do a credit simulation, we'll do quick fixes, and we get the credit to where it needs to be in order to be eligible, right? Borrowers' homes can or may not be located in an urban target area. So remember when I said about a specific street in a specific town? Sometimes when you're on a specific street in a specific town or city, you may get a lower rate in this program than the traditional rate on here, and I'll show you the rates in a minute. Eligible properties, 1 to 4 families, condos, townhomes, manufactured or mobile homes. You have to qualify based on your credit score and your debt to income ratios. She mentioned debt to income ratios before. Debt to income ratio basically is all of your minimum monthly debt divided into your minimum, into your monthly income. And that percentage is gonna give me what your DTI or debt to income ratio is. We go to the next one on here.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
In this program, is there specific houses that you can purchase under these programs? Like, are
It's-
you able to get like a foreclosure house? If
You
see a
can.
house that's in
So,
foreclosure?
yeah, so foreclosure and short sales, it doesn't make it any different than any other transaction, right? As long as the house is habitable. So if you're looking at a foreclosure house that's missing all the pipes, then you can't use the program, right? Because you're gonna need a renovation loan for that type of property.
But doesn't this have the renovation loan?
No, You can't get a grant with renovation
Oh,
loans.
that's what you
Yeah.
were saying.
Yeah, this grant also requires you to live in the property for 5 years, right? For every year that you live in the house, 20% of the money that was given to you in the form of a grant is forgiven, right? So by the end of 5 years, it's 100% forgiven, and you don't have to pay the grant back, right? It does have income limits as well. So for every county, you cannot make over a certain amount. These are the county and the limits. So to use Passaic County as an example, as long as you don't make over $164,250, you qualify. Yep. So the reason why I like this program so much is because the income limits are not bad, right? The majority of first-time homebuyer grant programs or down payment assistance programs, they limit you to 80% of the median income of the place that you're buying. This one doesn't necessarily have that. They increased it to 140% of AMI, which is the average median income, and they actually increased it again in July, I believe, of this year. So the numbers are pretty high on here. I mean, again, looking at Passaic County, as long as you don't make over $164,250, you would qualify, right? Which is pretty good, right? And $160,000.
It's
Essex County is 162,360.
and
Sorry
is
about
that per person or
whoever's on the
applicant?
application? Whoever's on the application.
so total applicants? So
Total,
if there's
total.
6 applicants, their total income
Cannot
can't
exceed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So if you are husband and wife, and you're both on the application, then it would be, we'll look at both incomes, and the total cannot exceed the number.
Got it.
Now, husband and wife is on the loan, husband is not. I'm not looking at his income, I'm only going with wife's income, right? So these are the income limits, very, very flexible, right? We go to the next slide. And these are the current rates. I printed this as of yesterday, right? So there's 3 programs under the NJHMFA umbrella. The first program, which is the one based on the street in the city that you're looking at, urban target area, right, is at 5.625 today. The second program, Homeward Bound. Homeward Bound is a little bit more lenient with debt to income ratios. It's a little bit more lenient with income. That one is a little higher at 6.625. And then the last one is a conventional mortgage. It's the HFA Advantage. That one is at 6.5. The beauty of these rates, right? I mean, anybody looking in the marketplace, they can say, well, we can get better rates if we're doing a regular FHA loan. That's very true. But are you paying points for them, right? Because these rates don't charge points. And are those other loan programs giving you $22,000 to buy your house? No, right? So the last program, the conventional one, that one I would truly recommend it for people who are at least a 700 credit score, only because although this rate is fixed, the last one, the 6.5 one, the HFA, yep. And the reason why I would recommend that to anyone whose credit score is 700 or above is because, again, if we go back to what we said earlier, conventional loans, the lower your credit score, the higher the mortgage insurance, right? So you'll still be hit with a higher mortgage insurance because your credit score is under 700 and using this program, right? Aside from grant programs, we also have what's called down payment assistance programs. It's a little different, right? Grant programs are forgivable, meaning you don't have to pay them back. Yep, that's connected to the NJHMFA. And if we go to the next slide, this is a down payment assistance repayable program. Repayable program means that we're gonna charge you for whatever we give you now, right? We'll help you with the money to get the down payment and closing costs, but it's gonna be an additional charge. There's pros and cons to this, right? And a lot of people ask me, well, which is better? That truly depends on your specific scenario, right? This program, it has no income limits at all. So I'll give you an example. Somebody, recent college graduate, making $300,000 a year, right? In IT or doctor or something like that, they're not gonna qualify for the first one because they're above the income limit. They haven't had enough time to save money because they're a recent college graduate. They can qualify for something like this, which is a down payment assistance program, right? So no income limits required. If your credit score is from 600 to 619, we will give you 3.5% of whatever the purchase price is, which is your total down payment. If the credit score is above 620, we'll give you 5%, right? So you'll have your down payment and 1.5% left for your closing costs.
Can you use this on jumbo loans?
If Jumbo, if the property falls within the max loan amounts for the FHA program in that town. So it won't be a true jumbo, but it can be $1 million house if in that specific area you can do $1 million mortgage loan under FHA. So we would have to look at the limits, the max mortgage limits in those specific areas.
So every county or every area has a different FHA limit?
Correct. Yep. So you can get 5%. Credit scores, right, are a little bit more lenient, right, because you could go down to 600 on this program. You have to meet credit score and debt to income ratio requirements like every other loan. And this one is only eligible on 1 to 4 family homes. And I forgot to put condos in there, but condos are also eligible as long as it's FHA approved.
How long is the process for these programs?
Depends who you're working with. That's really the truth, right? So there's some lenders that they wait to the very last minute to submit this stuff. I don't like to work that way because grant programs, since they require an extra layer of review from the state, they can prolong the process, right? So what I like to do is we're having the conversation, you tell me you're interested in the grant program, I'm gonna give you a full list of all the documents the state is gonna want. I'm gonna collect those even before you go under contract on a house. And I'm gonna send the file to underwriting to truly confirm that you're eligible for this program, right? Because I don't want you to go under contract, pay for an inspection, get an appraisal done, so that then the state can say, hey, nope, you're not getting the money. And then what do we do at that point, right? So the fastest I've been able to do a grant program is 30 days, but on average is normally 45 for the grant. And that's just my personal experience. I've heard horror stories, people 3 months, and it extends.
That's not bad. I was thinking it's gonna take over a year.
No. So there's a program that a lot of people use called NACA. That's a little different. That if let's say that you're paying $1,000 a month in rent and you're going to apply for a $4,000 a month mortgage, they're gonna put you in a program for, I think it's like 6 months, where they see what your spending and saving habits are to see if you can manage that payment shock, right? So that's a completely
So now
different.
it's 6 months. It's not a year anymore.
Yeah, on the person's situation. Yeah. So I don't personally do NACA, so my information on it is very limited. I don't offer the program. The company that I'm with doesn't have that in the product catalog, but a lot of clients will come to me and they say, hey, they're doing this and this and this, and we'll compare it to NJHMFA. And I'll, very honest, I would love your business, but if you're getting something better, I'm gonna tell you stay over there, right? Because I never wanna be the person that steers you in the wrong way financially. And we go to the next slide. So I did a comparison, right? Because I'm a numbers person. I like to see everything side by side. So what I did in this scenario, I took a $700,000 two-family house and I compared 3 programs. I compared the regular FHA, if you were responsible for your own down payment and closing costs. I took Access Zero, which is the repayable program, and I took NJHMFA. So I'll just move this a little bit. So if we look up here, and I'm only doing that because I can't see that far. The regular FHA loan, rate as of yesterday, and I used a credit score of around 640. I didn't go too high on credit score, so these numbers can be different for everybody depending on their credit. Regular FHA loan, 6.25% rate on a $700,000 house. Your total monthly payment, if the property taxes are $1,000 a month or $12,000 a year, we're looking at $5,715, right? What you would need out of pocket between down payment and closing costs is $37,500. If we go to the second program, the repayable down payment assistance, Access 01, you don't have an income limit, right? You have to repay this money back. Interest rate is about a half a point higher at 6.75. Your total monthly payment is $6,379. What you need out of pocket is $10,303 on that program, because you can get up to 5% of whatever the purchase price is. So if we're looking at the first two, regular FHA, if you're not getting any credits from the seller, you need $37,500 on a two-family house, $700,000. Using the repayable program, you only need $10,383 out of pocket. Now, the NJHMFA, all the way on the right side, at a 5.625% rate, your monthly payment is $5,439, and your total out of pocket is $15,500. So just doing a comparison, From a monthly payment perspective, NJHMFA is the best option. From an out-of-pocket expense, the repayable one is the better option. So that's when you truly have to analyze the situation and look at your numbers. I'm buying this 2-family house. How much money am I getting in rental? And what makes more sense for me, right? So that's just a comparison that I can share with everyone as well. Next slide. Do's and don'ts. So you want to stay current on all of your rent payments, all of your credit payments. You want to use your credit cards as normal, but you don't want to increase balances, right? Because increased balances are increased utilization, and increased utilization means a lower credit score. I'm going to try to find this here only because I can't see that far. You want to make sure that you communicate with your team, right? So be as transparent as possible with Anna Kay, with myself, with your inspector, title. If anything is going on, you want to make sure that the team knows everything. And the reason why I say that is because you do more damage to yourself in the transaction by hiding stuff than letting us know up front. And the reason why I say that is because if you tell me up front, I'm going to find a way to circumvent and get around it. But if you allow me to see or get surprised at the end, it may be too late for me to do anything, right? Do not co-sign for anybody, please. No car payments, no mortgages or anything like that. Do not make major purchases, because if I see it coming out of your account and it's a big purchase, I'm gonna have questions. Don't consolidate any debts. Don't do anything related to credit until you run it by us. Think of it almost like you're a child again and you have to ask your parent permission for everything. At least for those 30 days, you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Because it's gonna be a smoother transaction for you. Don't change any bank accounts. There's a myth in the marketplace that you should not change jobs. That's not true. You can change jobs as long as the way that you're getting paid does not change. If you're somebody that's on payroll, you're getting W-2s, pay stubs, taxes are being taken out, don't go into a 1099 role, because now I don't know what your income is. Now you're self-employed. Now I have to wait 2 years of you earning income this way to be able to determine what you qualify for. The reverse, however, is acceptable. If you're a 1099 or a self-employed person and you're getting a full-time job, has to be full-time. It cannot be like commission-based. Like if you go and you're a waiter now and most of your money is based on tips, but you've never earned tips, who am I to say because you had 1 week where you made $2,000 in tips that's gonna be every week, right? The bank is not gonna go for that, right? So we're gonna look for stability. We can go to the next slide. And there's just steps towards the home ownership process. Once you do all of that detailed stuff with me, you're gonna go onto the marketplace with Anna Kay and you're gonna look for a house. We'll go to the next one. And you're gonna define, what you want and what you need. Anna Kay is gonna consult and walk you through that. Go on the contract, make the offer, go on the contract. You determine the price, the terms, the contingencies. Contingencies are things that you may want or not want, right, in the part of the negotiation process. Go to the next slide. And then we prepare to close. But in between all of that, right, because that was very streamlined, after we get into contract and you do your inspection with Kenai, Aziz, he's gonna let you know what's wrong with the property. After all of that is figured out, then we start the mortgage process with me. We involve title and appraisals and all that stuff. And then we eventually get to close. But with the pre-approval process, I would just say, or with anybody in real estate, whoever you decide to work with, just make sure that it's somebody that you're truly comfortable with and that you have a certain level of trust. Because if you're not comfortable going out every weekend with Anna Kay because you don't like her personality, the one, not that that's gonna happen, the one who's gonna suffer through it is you, right? You're shooting yourself in the own foot. Or if you're working with me and you don't feel comfortable enough to tell me like, hey, Francisco, I have a son and I help my son every month with his payments because he financially can't do it. If you're not comfortable to tell me those things and then I'm gonna see it, then it's just gonna create problems throughout. So truly, truly get a group of people that you like and that you're comfortable with, that you're okay being vulnerable with, because it's gonna make for a better journey for you the first time around. That's pretty much it for me. Any questions? No? Oh, good.
Awesome. Awesome job. Thank you so much, Francisco. Appreciate you. That was excellent information. Does anyone have any questions? Additional questions for Francisco? Come on up.
So my question is, as a contractor, um, is it possible for me to get a renovation loan and do a property for myself, and why, and what are the alternatives?
Absolutely. So you can, as a contractor, get your own, like, let's say 203K. The bank will allow you to be your own GC, general contractor, but they will not allow you to do all of the work. So what they'll tell you is, what is it that you specialize in, right? Like, let's say you specialize in sheetrock and, framing and stuff like that. They'll let you do that, but they won't let you install the walls, or they won't let you change the plumbing or electricity. They'll have you source that, outsource that elsewhere.
As long as I can account to subcontractors,
Mhm.
then I would be able to.
Yep. Absolutely.
That was a great question. And also an amazing question for Aziz that's coming up, because he is a 203K consultant and he will be able to assist in answering those types of questions. So at this time, we're going to have Aziz from Kenai Inspection, and he's going to come and tell us all the do's and don'ts and what to look for in our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. I could leave this right here. Okay, that's my logo. Can we go to the next slide, please? So my name is Aziz Johnson. I am the owner and operator of Kenai Home Inspections. I'm also a 203K HUD consultant, like they said. I'm a NACA inspector, a veteran, and I have a nonprofit called Patterson Smiles, but that's something different. Just to touch base back, or you can leave it right there. Just to touch base back to when we spoke about NACA. So NACA is it's a whole different animal. It's a whole different institution. With NACA, you have to be on their preferred vendor list. So you can't use just anybody. When you go through the NACA program, it's different for every person. Just like I said earlier, it could be 6 months. That's like the minimum time, but it also could be 2 years long. It just depends on your financial or saving situation, because you have to go through their program and jump through a bunch of hoops. But you have to use their preferred inspector, their preferred lender, their preferred attorney, title. You have to use all their people, and you have to be affiliated with them to use that. But that was it with NACA. You go to the next slide. This is just my education and background before I became a home inspector. I also went to school for plumbing, electric, and HVAC. Then I went to school to be a home inspector. We go to the next slide. The most important thing to remember. Next slide. Back. There we go. Take out your phones. Follow me on social media. It is the most important thing. So if you do not follow us, follow us. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. Of course I do. Of course I do. The new age, it's a new age. Everyone's just social media now. Nobody even looks at a website no more. You just pay for it just to have it. Everyone was like, let me go on TikTok. Let's see what they're doing up there. Okay, we go to the next slide. Why get a home inspection? All right, can we go back further? There we go. Why get a home inspection? Why get a home inspection? You won't buy a car that you don't test drive. So why would you buy a house, which is one of the most expensive purchases you ever going to have in your life, without getting a home inspection? Now, some people feel that it's mandatory. It's not a mandatory thing. It depends on your loan type and the different type of loans. And we have the FHA loan, which we spoke about. We have VA loans. We have 203K loans, and then it could be no loan in the year. It could just be a cash deal, right? So when you get your home inspection, sometimes it's mandatory by your financial institution. And it's also what type of different inspection to get. But we're going to go over that later. And insurance purposes, some insurance companies won't insure you unless you had a home inspection. They want to know what they're insuring. And getting a home inspection is the perfect negotiation tool. So let's say you're buying a house for $500,000. You get your home inspection. The home inspector goes through it. He finds XYZ is wrong with it. XYZ can cost you up to $20,000. Now, with your real estate professional and your attorney, you negotiate either the seller could repair, or they could come down on a price, or they could get you a concession. A concession is when you get money back at the end so you could get it fixed. Next slide, please. What is a home inspection? And I'm going to go over what a home inspection is, because people tend to think a home inspection is just like everything. So what a home inspection is, the basic home inspection, it is a visual inspection to go through your house, non-invasive. So it's basically from top to bottom. So we go over your roof, foundation, the heating, the cooling, the electric, the plumbing, all of the interiors, which is the door, ceiling, windows, and floors, all of the exterior and garage, whether detached or attached. That's the general gist of the general home inspection. Next slide, please. Then we have ancillary inspections. Ancillary is just another word for addition. So the general home inspection is your hamburger. The ancillary is the cheese, bacon, lettuce, tomatoes, getting you that meal that you need, right? So we have the ancillary inspections is an oil tank sweep, termite report, radon testing, mold testing, indoor air quality, which is the same as mold, lead paint testing, and sewer scope. And I'm going to explain what each of these different inspections are. With FHA, they do require a termite inspection with it. Like it's a mandatory, you have to get that addition. So same thing with the VA. And some lenders already automatically require a oil tank sweep as well. Next slide. Oh. That's not supposed to be the next slide. All right, just go back to the slide. I'll explain it. That's not supposed to be the next slide. So what an oil tank sweep is, at one point in the old days, we used to heat our properties with oil instead of gas. These oil tanks will be in the ground. So what an oil tank sweep is, we'll do a survey, we'll sweep the ground and look for an abandoned underground oil tank. Lenders do not like abandoned. You can still have an oil tank as long as it's in use. But if at one point it was converted to gas and they just abandoned and left the tank in the ground, lenders will not give you the money unless that oil tank is removed. Not even properly decommissioned. They don't even want it decommissioned no more. They want it removed out of the ground because it's an EPA no-no. And you can have EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. Oil tanks, eventually they're going to leak. And then it's going to contaminate the soil, and this can cost you tens of thousands of dollars to remove. First, and it all depends on the size of the tank. Where's the tank located? Is it in dirt? Is it in concrete? Is it in asphalt? And then the town, do they got to shut down the street? You got to get a permit. Does a police officer have to be there? And this is what builds it up. This is what keeps going, builds up the price for it. And then is the soil contaminated? If the soil is contaminated, you got to remove the soil. Then you got to put new soil. Then you got to test it again. And then if it's still contaminated, you got to rinse and repeat. And this just keeps running up the price. So, yeah, you got to pay for it.
It depends on how you negotiate it.
Yes, yes, yes.
So either you as most times it's the seller that will take care of it so that we could get to close. Yeah, So most times it's the seller that should be taking care of it because it's still their home, but the buyer may be so desperate, or not desperate, but so eager to get the home that they may be willing to say, hey, I'll cover the oil tank removal or contamination. It just really depends on the negotiation between the buyer and the seller and what your agent or your attorney is able to negotiate for you.
And I know you all first-time home buyers, but I also do a seminar with sellers, right? And it's always good as for the seller to get this done before they even put it on the market, because then this will speed up your transaction process. Oh yeah, none of these slides are there. Termite, it's self-explanatory. It's when we check for termites. And like I said, FHA and VA, they require that the property gets inspected for termites. It's just another additional service. Then we have radon testing. Radon testing is somewhat new, was becoming popular of testing. Radon is a radioactive gas, second leading cause of lung cancer. Colorless, odorless, tasteless. The only way you know how high the levels are in radon is you have to test it. You can't eyeball it. You can't say, well, I live over here. No one knows unless you get it tested. Now, rule of thumb for me is if your property has a well or a septic tank, then you should do radon. But in more urban areas, city areas, the radon levels are low. Like here in Passaic, Patterson, the radon levels are slightly low. Once you get out in the sticks and the boonies and more rural areas, the radon levels are higher because it's less developed. Then we have mold testing, self-explanatory. So when we check for when we test for mold, there's two types of tests. There's the culture sample. When something looks like mold, we'll do a swab. This has to go to a lab. The lab tests it out. This takes a couple days to get back. Indoor air quality is the same. It's mold, but it's the mold spores in the air. This is where it gets technical. It goes to the lab. It gets sent back. Now we have lead paint testing. You need another license for this. This is becoming more. Before was you signed a document saying there's no lead, cool. But now the state is requiring lead testing before you could even sell your house. And it's just lead-based paint, lead dust sampling. Then we have the sewer scope inspection. The sewer scope inspections, what a lot of people don't know, and this is the most expensive repair. To get the sewer scope inspection is when we inspect your main waste lateral drain, and I know you don't know what that is, right? But you know that in your house you have plumbing behind the wall. You flush the toilet, you run the sink, you see that plumbing down there, and then there's plumbing behind the wall. All that plumbing, whether it's a single family or multifamily, and you especially get this done if it's a multifamily, all that plumbing in the wall, it all, for every bathroom, every sink in the house, it all ties into one drain from basically your basement wall, and then it goes into the city sewer. So let's just say this is our house, and then that's the street, and then there's a buried underground pipe that no one ever sees, but that's where your plumbing goes. It goes from your house to the city sewer. You as the homeowner, you're responsible for that buried underground pipe until it hits the street. It can be very costly to repair because now you gotta dig up the ground, you gotta replace it. It's kind of like the same thing as an oil tank. You might need a permit, you might need a cop there, especially if your house is on a sidewalk. You really don't have yard, so now you gotta mess up the city sidewalk. You gotta shut down you have to shut down the street. You have to get a cop. You gotta get a permit. And this is something that has to be fixed right away. So if you can have a leaky roof, but we're in the summertime, you can have 30 days to fix your leaky roof, or you could throw a tarp over it and thug it out. But once your line is messed up, you have to fix it right away because you can't flush the toilet, you can't brush your teeth, you can't do anything. And especially if you have tenants, it's a multifamily, now you have to accommodate them until it's fixed. So as a homeowner, you have to be mindful when you do have a multifamily and you inconvenience your tenants, you have to compensate for that. So it's very important to always get your sewer line checked because it's usually the original pipe since the house was built. So it's a 100-year-old pipe. We don't know what it looks like on the inside. Next slide. When to schedule an inspection. I know we're eager. We be wanting to move quickly, and like as soon as you put an offer, let's schedule an inspection. And my company doesn't do it. Technically you can, but we don't do it. We don't put you on the books or do an inspection until you're out of attorney review. And what attorney review is, you find a house with your real estate professional, Anna Kay. You put in your offer gets accepted. Both attorneys go back and forth with the contract. Once you're actually under contract, when everyone agrees to the terms, then you get your inspection because you're locked in. Because you could get an inspection while they're still in negotiation, and then the seller could turn around and be like, I don't want to sell them my house. So you just paid X amount of dollars for an inspection for a house you can no longer even purchase. And that happened before. Different strokes for different folks. Different strokes for different folks is the different type of inspections you want. You don't have to get everything. As a first-time home buyer, I know I just went through all the ancillaries, and as a first-time home buyer, you're like, oh, this is my first house. I don't know what's going on. Give me everything. And then you get that everything price. Remember, hamburger, deluxe. And they be like, no, I want everything. And then they get that deluxe price, and they're like, well, do I need everything? And and, yeah, and you really don't need everything depending on the property. If this is a brand new construction, of course you don't need everything. If this is an older home, needs a little tender loving care, then maybe you should get everything. I know clients love to ask, what do I recommend? I don't like to give out recommendations. I like to leave that to the realtor because I don't want to have people feel like I'm upcharging them. So I like leave that to the realtor, but what we always recommend is a sewer scope inspection because you don't know unless you look at it. Even if it's a brand new construction. We had a situation where it was a brand new construction in Newark. Everything was new from the ground up. My client was an investor. This is probably like his 16th property, and he wanted to do a sewer scope. And me being a good guy, I mean, I'm like, it's brand new. Like, do you really want to spend that money? He was like, no, just do it. So I'm like, all right, cool, it's money in our pocket. I did the sewer scope inspection. Like, remember, a brand new house from the ground up. No one ever lived in it. Everything still got the tags on it. I ran the camera down there, and it had a speed bump in there. So his 4-inch brand new pipe was reduced to 2 inches because the contractors had extra plaster over, and instead of throwing it away, they put it down the sewer line. Thought it was going to get washed away, and what it did was created a speed bump and reduced the pipe. And once he was like, yeah, see, I ran into a problem like that before. That's why I always get it anyway. And I was like, all right, I'll never tell anyone never to get it ever again. Yes. What was the solution? Sneak it out. You sneak it out. Once you run the snake, it breaks it up. Next slide, please. Home inspectors and appraisers. We are not the same. Everyone thinks they're home inspector, and then what else should be up there is a surveyor. But a home inspector does an inspection, tells you what's wrong with the property. An appraiser gives you the value of the house. So they value the house. We inspect the house for what's wrong. We can't tell you. A lot of clients like to pull me to the side. They charging me $600,000. Do you think this house is worth that? I'm not an appraiser. I have no idea. I didn't even know that was the price. Then you have surveyors. Surveyors are the people who measure your lot to see what the size of your property is. So they come out and measure what the size of your property is because your fence might be on somebody else's property or somebody's fence might be on your property. And you can get your 4 feet back because you're paying them taxes for that 4 feet regardless, so you might as well claim it. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, that's our service flyer. We're a one-stop shop. We do everything. We do everything that was listed except for lab-based paint. Not yet. I just took the class. I'll probably get my license in January. I got to take the test and fail the first time. No one ever passes. This is hard. So when it is required for you to get a lead inspection, it's going to be hard for you to find a lead inspector. You're going to really have to go through the town because they're like needles in a haystack. It's just becoming a high demand for it, and no one has their license. And to get your license, it's extremely difficult. But I'll get it. I'll do it in January. Yeah, I just got to fail once, see what's on there. We service almost every county. We do North and Central Jersey. So Passaic, Bergen, Essex, Hudson, Union, Morris, Sussex, Somerset, and Middlesex. And every now and then I'll still go to Trenton, and I think tomorrow, where am I going tomorrow? I'm going to Jackson tomorrow, which is down there. I only do that in the wintertime when it's slow. That's it. Oh, next slide. Is there another one? Any questions?
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aziz. Let's give him a hand. Awesome, awesome. And our beautiful Juanita Dreyer is coming to tell us about title. You normally won't meet your title rep for the most part, but she does like coming to closing, so you might meet her at the end.
I do. That's my favorite part.
That's her favorite part. Get to
Yes,
close.
yes. Oh, okay, this one. So I'm Juanita Dreyer. Good morning, everyone. And thanks for being out on this rainy day, coming to learn about home ownership. Some of you already have homes. Some of you may be looking for investment properties. So I'm kind of in the middle. I'm Juanita Dreyer. I'm an executive with Chicago Title, Fidelity National Financial. I do title insurance. Oh, you can't hear me on YouTube? So I do title insurance. So that insurance, those that do own a home, you understand that we did a review on the property when you were purchasing it, when you were out with Anna Kay, when you went through attorney review, you had your offer accepted, and once you start the process of determining the appraisal, inspection, we pull that information to make sure there's no outstanding debts outside of any liens, any judgments, any negativities on there that will prevent you from being able to get a title insurance policy. It also covers you to make sure that when you purchase a home that you won't have anything financially that you're going to be responsible for that the seller left you. So title searches are a big benefit to people who are purchasing property, and the mortgage company is going to require a buyer to be able to get a policy to ensure the amount of loan they're buying you. So why choose your title company? Because as a buyer, you have the right to choose your lender, you have the right to choose your real estate agent, you have the right to choose your inspector, you have the right to choose the attorney that represents you as a real estate attorney, which we definitely recommend in title, and you also have the right to choose the title company that you want to use. So you have a lot of power because you have your purse, right? You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And we all are in sales. So each and every person should have the mindset to serve you. You should be comfortable. You should feel that that person is listening to you. You should feel that that person has your needs as a priority. If you don't feel that way, don't feel beholden to work with them, because how you feel through this process is very important. It is most people's biggest thing that they purchase in their life. You will have it for the duration of your life. Most people don't buy investment properties, but as we in our community get more knowledgeable and things become more accessible, we do promote getting here in New Jersey. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, so there's no two families there. But here, you're benefited. You have 2 families, 3 families, 4 families that you can get into. Your mortgage people can assist you in having or being able to use that rental insurance to help boost your ability to get into that family. And so get into those multi-families, so you'll be earning money as well as living there. So that's a benefit here that I don't have in Arizona. So consider that. Now, where you are, they're being bought up very quickly. So you can go out South Jersey, Jackson, like Aziz was talking about. But that is a possibility here to get into a multifamily and be able to use that renter insurance to help boost your affordability to get the loan that you need in order to get into the space, and then combine it with the grants. So once you get to that part and you found the property, you put in the offer, you're working with the qualified real estate attorney. They send a request to me, your title insurance agent. And what I'll do is I'll take that address, take your name, pull the history. It can go 20 years, it can go 60 years to see what's going on with the chain of title. The chain of title is all the people who own that property prior to you putting in an offer to purchase it. And what happened with it? Is the person that's trying to sell it to you the actual person that owns it? There's a lot of fraud in the industry right now. So having a qualified title expert be able to look at those contracts and be able to match the person that is saying they own this property with what the chain of title and the chain of deeds are that's filed and recorded with the state and municipality is very important. That's for your surety. That's for you to be able to only have to worry about the finance part, and the paper part, we got you. So you can go to the next slide. So why it's important. So title insurance protects you as a buyer. It's going to protect the lender. And there's also an owner's policy that we all encourage in the title industry for you to buy as well. If you have to buy a policy for your lender to insure their loan, you also should buy a nominal policy for yourself called the owner's policy to insure yourself for the lifetime that you're in this property. It ensures that the property has clear ownership with no hidden claims. So if something does come up, which it often does on a judgment, because the judgment is going to search the courts. And if something comes up for you, anybody else that's on the loan with you, or if something comes up with the seller, those things have to be cleared. They have to be paid off. They have to have something that is showing that it was paid off, but it's just still showing on your judgment search. Or if you have anything that comes up, or the seller side, I would say, if the seller has any liens or anything that comes up, they have to rectify it. They have to pay for it. If they, let's say they had a contractor come out to the house, whether it was a plumber, whether it was someone who did lawn maintenance, and they got into a dispute and they didn't want to pay the service price, and so they stopped communicating, those individuals have the right to put a lien on your property. If you don't want to pay them what you came in the beginning, you don't want to pay them what their quote is because you feel like they didn't service you the way that they promised, and they disagree with you and you stop communicating with them, or the seller stops communicating with them, they have the right to put a lien on the property that says you can't do anything with this property. You can't sell it until I get my money for the services that I rendered. Okay? And if that happens, that comes up on our title search, and that has to be satisfied by the seller. Now, that could be satisfied at the end of the deal once you sit at the closing table and we cut them checks to clear all those things out of their proceeds, or it can be satisfied prior to you getting to the closing table. All right, so anyone have any questions? Not so much? Okay. So this is a very important part. You can pass this slide as well. Go ahead, Aziz. You can pass the slide as well.
So when I bought my first two homes, I wasn't a home inspector at the time. I didn't know what title was. Usually the attorney picks the title. They asked, they're like, do you have a title person? And I'm just like, no. I didn't even ask what was title. It was like, don't worry, I got you. So my attorney picked title for me, and then once I got into the industry and I became a home inspector and I did things like this, I'm like, oh, that's title. Oh, okay. I could pick my own. I never knew I could pick my own. I thought the attorney just have their own title people, but you can pick your own title. And if I buy another house, I'm gonna pick you, Juanita.
Of course.
Okay.
I'm gonna expect you to pick me. So that's as we do these seminars in our community, we are educating, which I love to do. My first career was in education, so I'm big on home buyer sessions. This is my second career in real estate. And I love teaching just as much as I love, doing real estate. But it's very important, education, especially in this house where most of us come to get elevated, to get knowledge, to be able to aspire and sin, whether it's in Christ, and Christ has dominion over your natural life. So you have to have the education. Is the perfect house to get that education from, so that you can be elevated in the spirit and know that the people that are guiding you through the process are also walking with Christ. That's very important, because you know and you have a reassurance that you're not going to be scammed. And there's a lot of scammers out here. It's not a lie. It's awful. That's all I can say. It's awful. And I see a lot. in the industry.
No, and I just want to say how important title truly is, because as a mortgage lender, I remember having transactions in Patterson where the seller was not really the seller, and it was title that picked it up. So we had a transaction, we go under contract, we do everything, appraisal, inspection, everything, and right before closing, like a week before, the title agent called me. I was like, hey, we have a huge problem. I'm like, what's going on?
That's
So like,
awful.
the person who's selling this house is not the legal owner of the house, so we can't. So getting the right title company, somebody to do this type of search, it'll protect you against scams. So
And there's
definitely
so
important.
you're wrapped up and this sister right here understands, and those in here that have purchased understand. You have so much emotion wrapped up, so much invested, so much time. It could take you 2 years to find a house. You could put in 20 offers. You got so much wrapped into, and you may have changed what you were looking for to fit what's available because the inventory may not be as robust as it once was. So now you're changing your viewpoint, your desires to kind of fit, because your desire is to own a home. So you got so much in it. The last thing you want to do is get to me, and then I tell you, hey, this ain't going to go through because this person doesn't own it, because they daddy own it and it's not them. Or it's the same name as their grandfather, but the grandfather has passed on and he's not the legal estate holder or the person over the estate. That's the last thing that you want to do. But that's why the lenders require title insurance, a title search, because they're banking on the person that your attorney chooses or your real estate agent chooses is going to provide that thorough, expert, detailed search into who signed the contract, who is saying they are able to sell it to you, and to make sure that any outstanding judgments, any outstanding liens, any outstanding changes of title have been recorded accurately. Sometimes, and what's really big right now, and it's been in the news, there's individuals that are recording deeds on properties they don't own. And so what happens is when someone goes to look at it, they're just looking at the municipalities don't know that there's no transaction that went through. So if someone records a deed, they just think that something happened, right? That not a municipality, not the recording people.
Can I say two things real quick? Mm-hmm. That situation, right? Was that in Newark? Oh, that was in Patterson. So I did an inspection for this buyer in Newark. That same thing happened. I did the inspection, like a month and a half went by. I seen the realtor on social media saying this guy's a scammer, blah, 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 blah. So I hit up the realtor, like, what happened? She said, you know that house you did an inspection for? They don't even own it.
Yeah.
And they was at the closing
It's
table, and they
huge.
found out, title found that they
Yeah.
didn't really own it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And another thing is, I was a first-time home buyer. I never knew there was such thing as a water bill, right? I never knew you had to, no, not a water bill, a sewage bill. I never knew you had to pay sewage. It's a house in Patterson. I never got a sewer
It
bill.
depends
I
on where
never
the
got a
house
sewer bill.
is.
You can't cut off my sewer, so how would I know?
Yeah.
I've never had a sewer bill. When I was selling my house, this was I had this house for what, 5 years, 4 years? I was selling my first house, right? We was getting to the closing table. Title said, you got a lien on your house. I said, I don't got no lien on my house. I pay all my bills. What are you talking about? It was like, no, you said you never paid the sewer bill. I said, what sewer bill? I don't get no sewer bill. My toilet's always flush. What are you talking about? Said, no, you got a sewer bill. You didn't pay your sewer bill in 5 years. And I'm like, oh. So now I'm like, yo, so I'm telling my wife, I'm like, you know it was a sewer bill? She was like, yeah, I thought you was paying it. I said, when did you ever see me say or anything about a sewer bill? She was like, I don't know, I thought it was, sewer bill's like, it's inexpensive. It was probably, out of 5 years of never paying it, it was like $4,000 and some change. Mm-hmm. After never paying it. After 5 years of never paying it, no. See? You need to. I never knew it was a sewer bill ever.
So that's a good point too. You also want to have a good team that's going to be with you even after the closing table. So we do settlement in title. So settlement happens after the closing table, where we're changing over the property tax with the tax assessor's office, where we're changing out a water in the name, where we're sending the proceeds, where we're paying off previous mortgages or paying off previous debt that the seller or you may have wrapped into your loan. So it's very important that who you choose that represents you, who you choose that take you through this process, won't abandon you after you finish. You know, you can go to the next slide. Let me see what that next slide may be. Okay, you can pass that next slide. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No,
Why will it
talking about the slide.
So that's a good one. So as the two in here, and I work with Anna Kay all the time. Aziz and I refer people to Aziz. I have not yet worked with you, but you can send me a deal. I don't mind. But yeah, we're fast, we're accurate. So we're a one-stop shop because I work for the underwriter, and the underwriter is the one that's going to be looking at your loan or going to be looking at your deal. It's all in-house. So me as an agent, as well as your underwriter for the insurance title policy, is going to be able to give you that accurate information fast. So that's a good one. Go ahead and go to the next slide.
Not a question.
Go ahead, Jason.
Not a question, but to amplify what Aziz said. My wife was doing a transaction where, Anna Kay. She was doing a transaction, and she had a title agent before, and we found out that the agent was themselves was a scammer. Because when we reached at the closing, there was a lien on the property, and we had no idea until we reached closing, and it messed up everything. And we found out when we did some research on the agent, they weren't legit.
And just to support that, you don't want to, and this is not my lane. This is Anna Kay's lane. But what I'm going to say, veering over into another lane, is you don't want to waive things. Listen to your real estate agent. Don't waive your inspection. Don't waive things that are going to come back and negatively affect you. So let's say you get an FHA loan. You got about 4 documents in that loan package that says you did your own inspection, and you got to sign all 4 of them. And if something comes up, you didn't pay for your own personal inspection, and it's not the CO inspection, it's your own personal inspector, Aziz, home inspection. If you waive that and you get FHA, if something happens, some foundational issue, things like that, that's you. That's yours. That's your own out of pocket. You know, you can't go back to your lender. You can't go back to HUD and be like, no, there's something problem with the thing. But you sign these papers. It's a legal binding. It is what you have to now live with and come out of pocket and pay for. So just be aware of that. Those people who represent you are very important. And if you don't feel like they have the knowledge, challenge it so that you can get what you need.
In fact, sometimes when your realtor or your attorney advise you on certain things, and you choose that you're going to go against your advice, you will need to sign a document that says, even though I was advised not to proceed, I'm grown, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed. Anything that happens to you after you sign that document, not coming back to us, you can't hold us liable because you chose to do what you wanted to do, and now you're going to get what you get. And a little while back, one of my agents, she got a listing, and she was so excited about this land listing, and she didn't have her sign with her, so she put up my sign. She got the document signed. Everything was awesome. You know, she never met the person that was selling for, and she did a phone call conversation back and forth. And then one day when it was listed, the real owner happened to drive by the land and saw my sign. And he said, he called, he was like, "Hi, is this Anna K. Little?" I was like, "Yes, it is. How can I help you?" He was like, "I'm calling about a land at such and such place." I was like, "Yes. When would you," well, obviously it's not when would you like to see it, it's land, you could just see it. But I said, "What would you like to know about it?" He was like, "How did you get to list it?" I was like, "Well, my agent listed it. She spoke with the seller. Da, da, da." He was like, "Well, that's my land. So I want to know when you could take the sign off of my land."
Wow.
And
Did
so-
they record
so-
a deed?
No. So it was just a listing. But it was just like, wow, we were legit about to sell your land, and we had like an offer too. We had an
Yeah.
offer on the land and everything. And I was like, wow.
It'd have got stopped that title, but yeah.
It would have stopped that title.
Yeah.
But the FBI got involved. It was
It's really
yeah, it was
big
the
right
FBI
now.
called me. It was a hot mess. So very interesting. Title was important, to say the least.
It's very important.
Does title picked up if a property doesn't close a permit?
Yeah, it will pull up permits. Yeah, because we have to connect with
Yeah.
the municipality.
Yeah, the
If
reason
you have an open
the
permit.
reason why I'm asking is because some contractors, they actually get the work done but haven't closed the permit, and therefore when it's time for the owner to sell the property, it cannot be sold because of the permit. So that's
Yeah, the open permit comes up. Yeah, it will stop you.
The slide wasn't there, so I forgot to say it. But when you get a home inspection, you also have to sign an agreement. You know how we went through the ancillary inspections. So in this agreement, when we schedule an inspection, you're gonna say, "Yeah, I want the general inspection. I want to do the sewer scope, and that's it." And you're gonna get an agreement that says that's what we are doing. So then when you do buy the house and then you find out there was termite damage or you had radon and you didn't do it, and then you go to the home inspector like, "Hey, you didn't catch this," and the home inspector's gonna say, "Hey, you didn't want to do this. Here's the documentation you signed." Oh, wait, one more thing to go on what he said. Now this is different. This is if you get a 203K, because you can buy a house with a 203K loan. It's a different type of. It's the renovation loan. As a 203K consultant, it's the consultant's job to make sure that these permits are closed prior to closing. So you won't even be able to close if the 203K guy, inspector doesn't sign off on it. You can't even close because he makes sure that your contractors close these permits. They don't get paid unless they close.
Yeah. So let's say you got a bunch of money in your 401k and you don't want to deal with a lender. You just want to buy a land, a lot, or you just want to buy a home outright. And you got enough money to do so. And so you want to forego all unnecessary costs. That may be title because you're not getting, the lender is not involved and the lender is not making you go through title. You do a search, but you don't want to purchase the title insurance policy. So just imagine you do that. You buy the property and you're in the home. You celebrate with your family. You have your warming and all that type of stuff. People have come over. You all showered with new gifts. You bought new furniture, all those different types of things. And you're in the home 2 months. And you get a letter that says in big letters, delinquent in taxes. You owe $14,700 in delinquent taxes. Now, this is why title insurance is very important, because that will come up in your search and will require that if delinquent taxes are on this property, the seller must pay it out of the proceeds, or they must figure out how to pay. And then we'll pay off the people if it was bought as well, Or it may be in a judgment where it has to go back and forth with an attorney because the person who purchased the delinquent taxes wants their percentage, which I believe in New Jersey is like 18% of what they purchased it for. So that's why title searches and having a title company is important when you purchase, whether you purchase it with a lender and have a mortgage on that property or whether you purchase it in cash. It's very important to go through title. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
It still cannot be sold, right?
It can be sold. The lien just has to be paid off or have a payoff at the end.
At the end
And
of
we
the,
will pay the
Oh,
lien
okay.
off. Mhm.
all right.
It will just come out. Let's say you want to sell the house and you have some type of lien on it, and maybe you're selling it for $450, and whatever we're cutting a check from, whatever the cost of that lien is, we're going to take it from that $450 before we give you the rest of the proceeds as a seller and pay it off.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from our new realtors? Any questions from our new realtors?
It's actually really educational. I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll definitely stay in contact. But yeah, I just taking in everything I've learned. And it's really important to have, title insurance.
It is.
Because it can protect you from a lot of like illegal problems. So yeah.
What about you?
I don't really have any questions.
Uh-huh.
I was just taking the information in as well because that deed situation is kind of crazy.
It's big right now.
Yeah,
It is really big, and it's scary.
yeah.
It's happening, especially if you in a property that's in an opportunity zone. People are taking advantage of those individuals, and they just go by the last deed that's recorded. That's why you need title in order to be able to determine what the chain of title is and whether or not that deed is relevant, or even if it's real. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed speaking with you. If you have any other questions, Anna Kay has I have some cards here as well, but title is very important if you don't leave with anything else. Okay? All right.
All right. I will just fill in for Annika for now until she returns. Well, very intriguing about title because I work pretty close with Annika. I get to understand how important having a title agent is. I mean, you can be in so much filth, they would say, if you don't have a really substantial title agent. I do construction. I know that wasn't a part of it, but just in case you do your inspection and you need a quick fix, proper fix, not just quick fix, but proper fix, you can contact us and we'll get it done for closing. That's what we do. And I enjoy the loan part. I will be speaking with you. I'm horrible with names. Francisco. Very, very good presentation, very informative, and I appreciate it. And our new agent, they're going to come and share some more about why they should choose, why it's important to choose a real estate agent in your buying process or selling process. All right. All right, come up.
Hi. I'd say one of the most important things when choosing a real estate agent is it does provide you that help you need. Because when you're buying a home, it's a long process. There's so much that goes into it. You don't want to just go off and do that by yourself blindly, especially if you're a new home buyer. So it's really important to have an agent by your side helping you, bringing in that title company, that inspector, or anything else per se you'll need when buying your first or second or third home.
All right. Well, I think it's really important to have a real estate agent because they're able to educate you in the process of investing in a property. They're able to guide you when it comes to flipping, even maybe houses under auction if they're like more well-rounded in that area. So I do think real estate agents are very important to the community and also in obviously buying a house. So yeah, that's really it. And does anybody have any questions? Any questions maybe I might be able to answer? I've been a real estate agent for almost maybe a couple months, for about 5 to 6 months. So very new to it, but it's an exciting industry, and we can definitely teach other people how to build generational wealth. No, not yet. But I am interested in working with anybody who is interested in getting into rentals. I'm in the process. Are we still on YouTube? Not that, but did you guys turn it on? Anyways, yeah, I am new, but it's just really